Hello and welcome to another episode of So Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 92, and I'm recording on June 19th, 2025. This episode's movie is Stagecoach, which I watched yesterday on June 18th. It was available on Max. I think I was able to, we have Max through Hulu, so I was able to add it to my list through Hulu. So that's where I watched it. But so it was quote unquote free since we pay for Hulu and Max, it wasn't free at all. But very minimal. We'll call it that. Minimal. Stagecoach is a 1939 American Western film directed by John Ford, starring Claire Trevor and John Wayne. Screenplay by Dudley Nichols is an adaptation of The Stage to Lordsburg, a 1937 short story by Ernest Haycox. Film follows an eclectic group of travelers riding on a stagecoach through dangerous Apache territory. Film has long been recognized as an important work transcending the Western genre and is widely considered one of the greatest and most influential films ever made. In 1995, the film was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. Still, Stagecoach has not avoided controversy. Like most Westerns of the era, its depiction of Native Americans as mere savages has been criticized. Stagecoach was the first of many Westerns that Ford shot in Monument Valley on the Arizona-Utah border in the American Southwest. Some scenes blended shots of Monument Valley with those filmed on the Iverson Movie Ranch in Chatsworth, California, Archeo Encino Ranch, and elsewhere. And as a result, geographic incongruities appear. The movie, folks. So that's fine. Produced by Walter Wagner. I mentioned Claire Trevor and John Wayne. Also stars Andy Devine, John Carradine, Thomas Mitchell, Louise Platt, George Bancroft, Donald Meek, Burton Churchill, and Tim Holt. Cinematography by Burt Glennon. Edited by Otho Lovering. Otho. Dorothy Spencer. Music. There's a long list of musicians. I'm not going to read them all. Production company, Walter Wanger Productions. Not sure if that's a typo and it's supposed to be Wagner or if it is Wanger. But Wanger is funnier. Distributed by United Artists. Released February 2nd, 1939 in Los Angeles and March 3rd, 1939 in the US. Runtime 96 minutes. Runtime 96 minutes. What's wrong with me? It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. Outstanding production. Walter Wanger, I guess that is correct. Best Director, John Ford. Best Supporting Actor, Thomas Mitchell. Best Art Direction, Alexander Tulabov. Best Cinematography, Black and White, Burt Glennon. Best Film Editing, Otho Lovering and Dorothy Spencer. Best Scoring, Richard Hageman, W. Frank Harling, John Leopold, and Leo Shukin. It won Best Supporting Actor and Best Scoring. There were several remakes, 3 radio remakes, 1966 film remake starring Anne Margaret, Red Buttons, Mike Connors, Alex Cord, Bing Crosby, Robert Cummings, Van Heflin, Slim Pickens, Stephanie Powers, and Keenan Wynn. There was also a 1986 television version. What's wrong with me? Version featuring Willie Nelson as Doc Holliday, Chris Christopherson as the Ringo Kid, Johnny Cash as the Marshal, Waylon Jennings as Hatfield, Tony Franciosa as the Embezzler, John Snyder as Buck, Anthony Newley as the Whiskey Drummer, Elizabeth Ashley as Dallas, Mary Crosby as Lucy, June Carter Cash as Mrs. Pickett, and Jesse Coulter as Martha. I had never seen, this is the first John Wayne movie I've ever seen. And I think I've just sort of avoided his stuff. And I can't really think of why. There was a kid that I went to art school with that was obsessed with him. And it wasn't because of that. I liked that kid, Tommy. He was a good kid. But I think I just always had an image of John Wayne, and it was probably an image that is based on the older John Wayne and the sort of stereotypical or satirized version of John Wayne, the people that do impression, the version that people do impressions of and stuff. And I don't know, I just never was interested. So I wasn't super excited about this. This was a very good movie, and I'm probably not surprising anybody with that, other than the fact that I've never seen a John Wayne movie. But I gave this 3 stars. Could even maybe go a little bit higher. I was in and out a little bit. That's the only kind of gripe I would have with it. It's only 96 minutes. It felt a little long at times, like it dragged a little bit at times. I didn't take too many notes here. Just one thing was that the guy that played the whiskey drummer, which I think was Donald Meek, maybe. He was also the inventor from You Can't Take It With You, which won the last year's Oscar. Andy Devine's a guy that's popped up in several things over the last 10 years of movies. He has a very raspy voice from an accident he had when he was a kid, I believe. But the one note I wrote was Hateful Eight. And this reminded me of Hateful Eight a lot. And you could say that Hateful Eight was influenced by this, but I didn't see them in that order. So to me, this reminded me of Hateful Eight. A lot of the Stagecoach stuff in Hateful Eight, and then even just the parts of Hateful Eight where they're in the haberdashery, where most of the action takes place. But it just, like a small group of people in a confined place. It just, and it's a Western, so it just kind of gave me that Hateful Eight kind of vibe. And I think Hateful Eight is probably Tarantino's most underrated movie. So I think I also had an idea in my head that Stagecoach was also turned into a TV movie, but I thought it was a series. And I guess maybe I'm thinking of Bonanza or something like that, but I don't know. I sort of had an idea of what this was in my head, and it was not that at all. So I really did enjoy this one a lot. And, had a little bit of action. I had some cool stunts, people jumping on horses, from one horse to another, things like that, like chase sequences and stuff. So it was fun, and I like this one. So there's a little bit more Wikipedia, but nothing too crazy. So not going to get into any of that. I will just keep this one a little bit short and say, so far, good start. I liked Wuthering Heights, and I like Stagecoach. What did I give Wuthering Heights? I also gave Wuthering Heights 3 stars. So, and wait to hear the next one. So it's been a good round thus far. We'll see how it goes when we continue. And I don't know if I've said this at the end of the podcast before, but I meant to start. And you won't be hearing this by the time I'm recording this in June. This won't be published until like December or whatever, but I do post these on Threads just under my regular username, CW Westland. They do go to the Son of a Podcast page on Facebook. I don't do much there anymore because Facebook. But I also post them to my secondary Instagram account, which is called Movie Stubs 4. And that one started, I was posting my, I have 800 or so movie stubs, and I started posting them there daily on that a while back, and I sort of ran through those. So now I've been posting this since it's movie related. But yeah, check those out as well. That's all I got. I'll see you next time.